that Blake Lively has told people that there were multiple reasons that Justin Baldoni made her feel uncomfortable. It's a feminist buzzword. Uncomfortable on set. Blake beefing with her co-stars is a very common thing. And this is it. It's whiny, it's bratty, and it needs to end. Well, if it isn't the
She has spent years carefully building the perfect image, America's sweetheart, the flawless wife, and the devoted mother. But ever since the Blake Lively controversy began a few months ago, Candace Owens has been digging through every corner to uncover the truth.
Not seen a case so open and shut in my life, and the more that I read and the more details that I get into, because I've been working on my timeline, I'm just shocked at how many.
And now that Candace has the proof to support her claims, Blake is rattled. The curtain has been pulled back, and what Candace just revealed could flip the narrative entirely. Stay tuned, because we're breaking it all down, and trust me, this is something you won't want to miss. Blake Lively has long been Hollywood's golden girl, elegant, charming, and seemingly untouchable, but Candace Owens just cracked open a revelation that could rewrite everything. While the public was still trying to piece together the rumors, Candace discovered something far more deliberate. Even before the controversy reached the pages of the New York Times, Blake was already making calculated moves behind the scenes.
We may have cracked the mystery, or at least we established a very crucial part of the puzzle, which I am told by Taylor Swift's team, or I guess not by her team, but like Taylor Swift's team tried to bury what I'm about to show you.
Unlike the polished version of events the public was fed, Blake wasn't simply reacting to moments of disrespect. She was planning her strategy from the very start, and her main target was none other than Justin Baldoni. Candace carefully pieced together the timeline step by step, and now that the complete picture has come to light, there's no escaping the truth.
That the New York Times began working on the article even earlier, potentially back in October of 2020.
Blake believed she had everything under control, but the receipts paint a very different picture, and now she's scrambling. Her team is working around the clock to spin the story, desperately trying to shift focus away from her power plays, secret backdoor deals, and the way she strategically inserted herself into Justin Baldoni's project. Instead, they want the public to see her as the victim and feel sympathy for her.
Blake Lively's PR team wants us to know that everything that's happening right now is hurting Blake's feelings. And I don't know if you guys have paused to consider that Blake's feelings might be getting hurt in all of this. Well, if it isn't the consequence.
If this isn't the definition of full-blown Nepo diva behavior, what is? Blake has lived her whole career wrapped in the Hollywood dream, protected by privilege, guarded by powerful PR, and sheltered from any real fallout. But that cushion is slipping fast. The public isn't swooning over her picture-perfect marriage to Ryan Reynolds anymore, and her carefully crafted love story, let's be honest, a Pandora's box in itself, is losing its shine. For the first time, people are starting to see her without the glossy Nepo filter.
And Ryan Reynolds' severe anguish. They are anguished by the things that they did being found out by the public.
For the record, this isn't the kind of behavior you see from someone who hasn't been handed life on a silver platter. Blake is used to things bending her way, and when they don't, cue the complaints. Old habits, after all, die hard. Candace may frame it as speculation, but let's be real, it feels far less like a guess and far more like an informed conclusion. The way this entire situation was set up wasn't random at all. It was executed so deliberately that, had it worked, Justin Baldoni's name, career, and reputation could have been erased completely.
I think that it was just a perfect act of evil that was almost executed in broad daylight, almost like a psychological.
Let's not pretend this would have been the first time Blake and Ryan played this game. The pattern is crystal clear. They've pulled these moves before, smiling for the cameras as the picture-perfect couple while making ruthless power plays behind closed doors. This isn't about one slip-up. It's a repeated track record hiding in plain sight, protected by their carefully crafted family image. They've publicly bullied people before, but no one dared to call it out because their PR machine was just that strong. Now, though, the cracks are showing, and Candace Owens has thrown a spotlight on it all. Case in point, What Ryan said about Justin at the Deadpool Wolverine afterparty.
Wayfair was informed that Reynolds approached a senior executive at WME and expressed his deep disdain for Baldoni, going as far as to suggest that the agency is working with a...
This has their signature written all over it, and I know plenty of people would agree. While Ryan and Blake were busy running their usual behind-the-scenes playbook, Candace revealed that this time they pushed things too far, getting a little too bold, a little too desperate.
Justin Baldoni's PR specialist, Jed Wallace, his firm, Street Relations Inc., is suing Blake Lively for defamation after she claimed Wallace and his company...
There's no escaping it now. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are running out of moves. The clock is ticking, and the only thing left is for them to finally swallow the humble pie they've been dishing out to everyone else for years.
I can tell you that this is now the 5th lawsuit associated with Blake versus Baldoni, and we're exhausted by it. Now, based on Justin's recent release of documents, an expert I spoke to says Blake will...
This whole saga kicked off when a video surfaced showing Blake Lively treating interviewers, colleagues, and even fans in a less-than-kind way. Instead of owning up to her actions, she did what so many Hollywood elites do when cornered. She flipped the script and crafted a brand new narrative. Blake needed a distraction, and sadly for Justin Baldoni, he became the perfect target. She accused him of running an elaborate PR smear campaign against her, tossing out wild claims to divert attention from her own behavior.
No filing, which was with the Californian Civil Rights Department, that complaint was supposed to be the only filing. It was the ultimate bad PR response to what they wrongly assumed.
This wasn't just another Hollywood feud. It was something far more destructive. People might have brushed off Blake's mean girl moments or moved past those viral clips, but fabricating accusations in a way that disrespects real victims is a whole different level, and it's not something the public is willing to overlook. Justin's name was dragged into the chaos not because he was guilty, but because they needed a scapegoat. The civil complaint itself was blown out of proportion, exaggerated to the extreme, and they assumed no one would catch on. But people did notice, and now the cracks are impossible to ignore.
File that, take it to the New York Times, get them to take down Justin Baldoni, and who knows, like, it would have maybe been like, okay, we're going to resolve this in the background.
And now things have spiraled beyond a PR nightmare into full-blown legal warfare. Blake and Ryan aren't just losing control of the narrative, they're being dragged into lawsuits because of it. In the middle of Blake's ongoing battle with Justin Baldoni, crisis management expert Jed Wallace has stepped forward with his own defamation case. Wallace, who runs the PR firm Street Relations, filed suit in Texas federal court on February 4th, demanding $7 million in damages. The reason? Blake named him in her complaint, accusing him of fabricating social media content to tarnish her image. But Wallace isn't bowing to Hollywood games. He's demanding a court order to clear his reputation and prove he had zero involvement in the chaos Blake is trying to pin on him. To fully understand the weight of this move, here's exactly what Blake alleged about Jed in her filing.
Subcontractors, including a Texas-based contractor named Jed Wallace, who weaponized a digital army around the country from New York to LA to create, seed, and promote content that appeared to be authentic on social media platforms and internet chat forums. The Baldoni Wayfarer team would then feed pieces of this
Now Blake isn't just facing off with Baldoni. She's staring down real legal consequences with no easy escape in sight. When fans began calling her out for the shaky claims in her civil complaint, she scrambled to save face by escalating it into a full-blown lawsuit. But here's the kicker. In that official filing, Jed Wallace's name was suddenly gone, as if she thought erasing him from the narrative would make everyone forget. The problem is, the damage was already done. Wallace's reputation had been dragged through the mud for weeks, and now he's determined to make sure Blake pays for it.
The lawsuit that she filed in New York 11 days later, and now all of a sudden you don't see Jed, okay? It was a pretty strong allegation you made about Jed in the CRD complaint. What happened in 11 days?
Wallace's lawsuit points out that even Blake later admitted she had no facts to back her allegations against him or his firm, Street Relations. He had nothing to do with the supposed retaliation, failure to investigate, or harassment claims, and there was no contract with him to breach in the first place. Still, Blake's lawyer Michael Gottlieb quickly went on the offensive, dismissing the case as baseless. In a statement to The Hollywood Reporter, her team brushed it off as another 9-figure lawsuit seeking to sue Miss Lively into oblivion, calling Wallace's move a publicity stunt and retaliation for Blake's civil rights complaint. They even claimed they were glad he'd emerged from the shadows so he could face accountability. But let's be real, if there was no truth to Wallace's case, why did Blake quietly erase his name from her own filing? That screams damage control, and not the convincing kind. Suddenly, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool digs at Justin Baldoni don't seem so random either. Thanks to Candace Owens laying out the receipts, it looks like mocking Baldoni wasn't just a throwaway joke. It was part of a bigger play.
She never said that.
No, but I bet she thought it.
You are so mean. My brain could taste your fingers and they tasted like hate. And where in God's name is the...
This wasn't some casual improv, it was deliberate. Blake and Ryan have clearly been putting in work behind the scenes to make Justin look like a punchline, assuming no one would notice the setup. But here's the real question. Why now? Not long ago, they were trying to gaslight everyone into believing Justin Baldoni had masterminded a smear campaign against Blake, and now Ryan is slipping digs at him into a multi-million-dollar movie. That's not random timing. It reeks of strategy. It screams desperation, damage control, and a last-ditch attempt to shift the narrative. When their quiet takedown didn't work, they pivoted to mocking him in front of the world instead.
Cut scenes that they said, okay, this one's not going to make it into the movie, but here it is.
I'd be fighting alongside them, but my calling is to one day host a podcast that monetizes the women's...
And here's the kicker. Blake Lively couldn't bring herself to mention Justin's name even once in her interviews, not a single nod of recognition. It was like she was playing the Hollywood version of, if we don't say his name, maybe he'll just vanish. Meanwhile, Justin was out there giving Blake her due credit, acknowledging her contributions, and showing respect she never once returned. In Toro 17. That right there isn't just arrogance, it's next-level bullying. They didn't simply sideline him. They went a step further and tried to erase him completely, as if his work and presence never existed.
I'm grateful to Colleen for trusting me, for writing such a beautiful book. I'm grateful to her mother for allowing it to happen, because really this was in honor of her mom. And I'm grateful to Blake for just being a powerhouse.
And that's exactly why the whole scheme is blowing up in their faces. Blake thought tossing Justin into the middle of her legal chaos would shift the spotlight, but instead it's shining brighter than ever on her and Ryan. Every move they make is being dissected online, and their options are shrinking fast. Yet, despite all the chaos and character attacks, Justin Baldoni still showed grace when speaking about what it was like working with Blake Lively.
Mocked in the credits of his own movie, that he was mocked mercilessly, endlessly in Deadpool and Wolverine by A-list actors getting involved there. We know that Justin's colleagues and fellow actors on the film were then all invited to the premiere of Deadpool and Wolverine. So they watched.
So let's lay it out clearly. Ryan and Blake orchestrated this entire game, pushing Justin Baldoni to the edge, practically strong-arming him with the threat of a boycott unless he stepped aside and faded into the background like some Hollywood outcast.
She was involved in every aspect of this production, and everything she touched, she made better.
And now that their scheme has blown up in their faces, Ryan and Blake are suddenly begging for respect in the middle of their so-called anguish. Please, this is pure Delulu. Their real panic isn't about scrutiny. It's about losing the dragon they counted on as their shield, Taylor Swift. According to Candace, Taylor has stepped back, refusing to cover for Blake anymore. Instead, she's in full damage control mode, focused on salvaging her own image. And what better way to do that than to toss Blake straight under the bus?
Ryan Reynolds moved to release his promo for It Ends With Us, which featured his mother, Hugh Jackman, Brandon Sklenar, all mocking him.
Think about it. Once you've already been painted as the villain, the fastest way to flip the script is to find someone else to look worse, and who better to take that role than Blake Lively. But here's where it gets wild. Remember Blake's Game of Thrones reference? Yeah, she literally texted Justin after their meeting, calling herself Khaleesi and labeling Taylor and Ryan as her dragons, her supposed protectors in this entire scheme.
apartment at the time that Blake told her to, not knowing anyone else would be there. In other words, Taylor had no idea there was a meeting going on with.
But now Taylor Swift is waking up to the fact that Blake has been exploiting their friendship for years. Reports say Blake constantly dropped Taylor's name to boost her own influence, even going as far as telling a young actress that Taylor personally cast her in a film. Spoiler alert, that never happened. That actress was Isabel Ferreira, and she eventually spoke out herself about how she actually landed the role.
Taylor believes Blake timed her meeting with Justin so Taylor would arrive before he left, and is baffled by Blake later characterizing her as her.
And now TMZ sources are claiming that Blake and Taylor have hugged it out. Yeah, right, sounds a lot more like a PR cleanup stunt than an actual reconciliation. The truth is, Taylor hasn't fully decided whether to cut Blake off or keep pretending their friendship is intact. In Hollywood, it's always about keeping options open for the future. Leave it to Candace to expose yet another layer of the circus, because according to her sources, Taylor wasn't just an innocent bystander. She was knee-deep in it before the scandal even hit the media. The biggest proof? One of Taylor's songs was already featured in Justin's movie long before this entire disaster exploded.
It's hurting Blake's feelings. I don't know if you guys have paused to consider that Blake's feelings might be getting hurt in all of this. Well, if it isn't the consequence.
During a private meeting at Blake's New York City penthouse, Ryan Reynolds and a so-called mystery mega-celebrity, who, let's be honest, was clearly Taylor Swift, were overheard praising Blake's version of a pivotal scene in the script. In other words, long before this entire scandal exploded, Taylor was already right there, actively involved in the behind-the-scenes discussions.
Her song was featured, and that at one point, to feature her song, she got somebody fired. That is the allegation that is made, and she's curiously not responding to that she didn't like Brian.
Justin's own messages ended up backing Baldoni's version of events, further reinforcing his side of the story.
And we do also know that she's not being truthful about what happened later. As the meeting was ending, him and Taylor Swift are agreeing here, a famous and famously close friend of Reynolds and Lively walked into the room and similarly began praising.
So why is Blake the one spiraling while Taylor shifts the blame? Simple. Taylor's influence is the reason Blake reached peak star status in the first place. If Taylor's reputation takes a hit, Blake would be cut loose before she even knew what happened. That's why, even after Taylor threw her under the bus, Blake stayed silent. But here's the bigger picture. Taylor isn't lying just to save face. She's lying because this isn't only about public image. It's about potential legal consequences.
I didn't need that to happen. I thought that you were fine already. And if Taylor had said absolutely nothing to him, then she would have responded and said, "What are you talking about?" She was just coming into the house.
See, Justin's attorney Brian Friedman has already made it clear that nothing is off limits. If Taylor was truly entangled in this scheme, the legal fallout could be far greater than she ever expected. The very person who once shielded Blake might now become her greatest liability.
Not want to get deposed, okay? A deposition, legal deposition, is not a song. It is not an album. You don't get to drop Taylor's version of events. You are under oath and you will be.
Some people forget that Taylor has long known Blake's bold, unfiltered behavior was a ticking time bomb. Insiders say she even tried to rein Blake in, but Blake never listened. Taylor once admired that Blake was outspoken, fearless, and unwilling to be controlled. That's what drew them together a decade ago. While Taylor is calculated and subtle, Blake has always gone full throttle, never holding back, and that's exactly what turned the tide against her. Taylor tried to tone her down before, but now she knows it's hopeless. Even though they're still close, there's tension because of the "it ends with us" scandal. Taylor isn't happy about being dragged into the drama. Now, Blake is knee-deep in a massive legal war with Justin Baldoni, who's not just fighting back. He's countersuing Blake and Ryan for an eye-popping $400 million, pulling Taylor into the case as well. As much as she wants to distance herself, Taylor wasn't just a bystander. She was involved in shaping the narrative. With the public catching on, there's no more hiding. Blake tried to play the victim, but Candace Owens flipped the script, leaving her shaken. With Taylor backing away and lawsuits piling up, Blake and Ryan are quickly running out of options. The bigger question now, how much worse can this get? Because from the looks of it, this may only be the beginning of the end.